My name is Maeve Calder, and I'm 28 years old. It was one of those Tuesday nights where the apartment sounded like a waiting room. The TV muttered low. The air conditioner coughed soft. The kettle clicked like an impatient metronome. Zane stood in the doorway with his backpack slung over one shoulder, the good cologne he saved for presentation days ghosting off his collar. "I'm heading to Ramona's," he said, as if we'd discussed it already, as if it were a foregone conclusion like gravity. "We're cramming." "Again?" I didn't raise my voice. The word came out small, a paper boat sent into a current. He didn't meet my eyes. "It's quiet there. She has all the textbooks." His phone, face down on the table, lit up, pulsing through the cheap case like a heartbeat. "You're a law student," I said. "We can buy textbooks. We can do quiet." I gestured at the living room we'd painted together, my hands, his roller marks uneven at the corners. "We've done quiet." He exhaled the way people exhale when they want to signal patience. "Maeve, please don't start. You get weird about this. It's just studying. You're getting jealous again." There it was, the word that used to set me on fire. Jealous. The easiest way to make the person you love doubt their own temperature. "I'm not jealous," I said, tapping the edge of the table with one nail. Tap, tap. "I'm observant. There's a difference." He laughed without smiling. "You're being controlling. I told you Ramona and I are not a thing. We're study partners." "Then let me meet her." I tilted my head. Hello. 5 minutes. We're all adults." He picked up his phone, still face down. "No. You'll make it weird. You always do." I watched him like I was watching a stranger try on his face. "How long, Zane?" "How long what?" "Since you started needing her apartment to pass a class." "God, Maeve. This—" He scrubbed a hand over his mouth. "You know what? I don't have time for another jealous girlfriend speech. I need to focus." I nodded once. "Good." I stood and cleared the mug I hadn't used, because that was my last jealous girlfriend speech. He searched my face then, as if expecting storm clouds, and instead finding a clean sky. He kissed my cheek in the way people kiss relatives, and he left. The door clicked soft. His footsteps faded down the hall. Somewhere a neighbor's dog sneezed. I stood there until the kettle cooled. That's the thing about a final straw. It's never loud. It feels like the air drops 3 degrees and suddenly you can breathe. I called Felix. Felix worked the back-end systems at Zane's law school and owed me a favor from the weekend I helped lift his grandmother's armoire up 3 flights. "Maeve, what's up?" "Quick one," I said, aiming for breezy and landing near surgical. "Do you have a minute to check whether Ramona Gutierrez is in Section B?" "Ramona?" He clacked on his keyboard. A pause. "No Ramona in B." "Are you sure?" "I just pushed roster updates last week. Only Gutierrez I see is a Ramona in Section D." "Nope, wait. Not even that. That's a guest speaker list from last semester. Sorry. There's no Ramona enrolled anywhere this term." "Huh." I leaned against the counter. "Copy that." "Thanks, Felix." "You okay?" "I'm tranquil," I said, which was true in the way a snowfield is tranquil while an avalanche takes a breath. "Talk later." I hung up and opened my laptop. Zane paid for the streaming services. I paid for the phone plan. Passwords were chores I carried in my head like grocery lists. I pulled the call logs. One number braided through his last 3 months. Late nights like stitches. 10:57 p.m., 11:13 p.m., 1:42 a.m., 2:06 a.m. hours. Then the texts. Long elastic threads at midnight and dawn. I typed the number into a reverse lookup. The result surfaced like a coin from the bottom of a glass. Ramona Gutierrez. Not a law student. Marketing manager at a tech startup. Graduated 3 years ago. I sat very still. The focus you get when your body realizes if you move, you might shatter. Study partner. People use words like bandages. Stretch them over whatever needs to be covered and hope no one notices the bleed through. I scrolled. Photos linked from her social. Public enough to be careless. Rooftop bars, press kits, glossy faces in glossy rooms. There was Zane in one from months ago, partly cropped but unmistakable. The watch I'd given him for his birthday catching light like a small sun. The caption, "Old friends who still argue about espresso." Old friends. I clicked older. There she was again, from college. Ramona with a pixie cut and combat boots, and Zane with a buzz cut and a grin that looked like gravity. X's. Not a study partner. An orbit he never stopped circling. I closed the tab and breathed through the quiet crackle beneath my skin. I could have called, could have yelled, could have done the classic. Cry in the bathroom, clutch the sink. rehearse lines like a lawyer prepping an opening statement. But I've learned that some conversations cost more than they're worth, especially with someone who turns your facts into feelings, your patterns into paranoia. He wanted quiet. He said he needed quiet to study. I decided I would give him quiet the way hospitals give morphine, professionally, without apology, and with paperwork. When he came home the next morning, he looked tired in the way people look when they've been awake for the wrong reasons. He kissed my temple and complained about how late Ramona and I went over torts. I made him coffee with the machine I bought and told him, "Good luck on your big exam." He didn't notice the way my eyes stayed steady. That evening, he shouldered his backpack again. "Don't wait up," he said, like he was doing me a favor. "I'll be at Ramona's." "Have fun studying," I said. It came out light, maybe even kind. He paused, a fraction. Some animal part of him felt the wire tightening. He recovered fast. "Thanks." After the door shut, I took photos of the TV, the couch, the dining table we'd bought with my card. I snapped receipts stored neatly in a folder, the lease with my name only, the spreadsheet I'd kept because numbers don't gaslight. 6 months. $14,000. Rent shortfalls covered. Utilities caught before shutoff. Grocery deliveries he swore he'd Venmo later. His gym membership just for a few months while I'm focused. Every line item was a breadcrumb. Together they made a map out. I wasn't packing yet. Not tonight. People think leaving is adrenaline and car trunks at 2 a.m. Sometimes it is. This time it would be administration. Boxes labeled. Movers booked. Keys on a ring that stopped at 1. Before bed, I texted Marcy, his closest friend, the one he always used as a last-minute alibi. Me. "Hey, Zane said he might crash at yours sometime this week. All good?" Marcy. What? I haven't seen him in days. Everything okay?" Me. "Peachy, thanks." I took a screenshot and put it in a folder called Receipts. At 3:07 a.m., Zane texted, "Fell asleep studying. Crashing at Marcy's. Love you." I looked at Marcy's bubble from an hour earlier and felt nothing except confirmation settling in like a brick. When the kettle clicked off the following morning, I didn't think about the old fights, the eye rolls, the accusations designed to shrink me. I thought about labels for boxes and the name of a building closer to my office where the lobby smelled like lemon and new paint. I thought about how silence would sound in a space where everything inside it belonged to me, including the oxygen. He came home to shower. He whistled in the bathroom and asked if I'd seen his lucky pen. I said I hadn't. He said Ramona thought he should study all weekend. I said, "All weekend?" Like I was asking about the weather. He said, "Don't start," like a man who knows exactly where he's standing but not the earthquake beneath. "I'm going out of town," I said, drying a plate I'd already dried. "A little trip." His face brightened in a way that would have hurt me yesterday. "Perfect. I can really focus." I smiled. Exactly what I thought. After he left, I opened a blank document and typed a single sentence. If he needs quiet, I'll give him silence. Then I started a checklist. The first item read, keys to the new place. The second, movers. The third, spreadsheet printed. There were 20 items in total. None said confront him. None said convince him. None said make him see. When I was done, I closed my laptop and wrote a note on a yellow sticky, the cheap kind that curls at the corners. "Zane, your last jealous girlfriend moved out. The apartment is paid through month's end. After that, it's on you. Maybe Ramona can help, since you spend so much time studying at her place. Good luck on your exam. Maeve." I didn't leave it yet. That would be later, when the apartment was an echo. For now, I tucked it under a magnet on the fridge where his laminated "Rules for Focus" used to hang. He'd taken that down months ago. I hadn't noticed until now. I looked around the room one more time and realized quiet already sounded different. It sounded like a decision. Tomorrow, I'd make a call about a one-bedroom with morning light. Tomorrow, I'd book the movers. Tomorrow, I'd print the spreadsheet in neat columns that didn't blink or lie. Tonight, I made tea and slept in a bed I would be taking with me. I dreamed of doors that only opened from the inside. By Friday morning, the plan had shape. It wasn't revenge. It was arithmetic. Every morning, Zane left for class at 9. Every evening, he returned at midnight, or later, with the same excuse. Study sessions. I'd stopped tracking lies by then. What mattered was timing. The hours between those departures and arrivals were mine. I spent them measuring life by cubic feet. How many boxes to hold a past, how much tape it takes to close a chapter. I hired movers under my maiden name, easier that way, and scheduled them for Saturday afternoon. Quiet men, cash deposit, no questions. The apartment looked exactly the same on the surface, but if you opened drawers, they were half empty. My books were gone from the shelf, my favorite mugs wrapped in newspaper. I'd even replaced the bed sheets with an old set he wouldn't notice missing. The place looked lived in, but unloved, like a hotel room pretending to be a home. When Zane texted that afternoon, "Might crash at Ramona's again. Don't wait up," I replied with a thumbs up emoji. It felt like pressing a detonator without the noise. That night, I sat on the floor, surrounded by boxes, sipping cold tea and reviewing the spreadsheet. $14,000, itemized. I'd highlighted each entry: rent transfers, grocery receipts, his half of the utilities I'd quietly covered when he claimed the bank app was glitching. It was my favorite kind of revenge. Factual, not emotional. The last entry was dated 2 days ago. Wi-Fi bill, $84, paid by Maeve. I printed the sheet on crisp white paper, slipped it into a clear folder, and laid it beside the fridge magnet where my goodbye note would go. Before bed, I walked through every room, flipping light switches on and off. Not because I needed the light, but because I wanted to remember what each switch sounded like when it belonged to me. Saturday. Zane left before noon, whistling. He'd kissed me lightly on the head, said something about finally catching up on case law. I smiled at the irony. Good luck. When the movers arrived, I guided them through a checklist. Professional, detached, like any other transaction. Everything on this list is mine, I said. Furniture, electronics, kitchenware. Leave anything that looks like it was picked by a man who doesn't own a measuring tape. They chuckled. I didn't. It took 2 hours. The walls looked strangely taller without the framed prints. The couch left an imprint in the carpet like a ghost. When the truck door slammed shut, the sound startled me, like punctuation on a sentence that had gone on too long. I locked up, double-checked the thermostat, and set my note on the counter beside the spreadsheet. Zane, your last jealous girlfriend has moved out. The apartment is paid through the end of the month. After that, it's on you. Maybe Ramona can help, since you spend so much time studying at her place. Good luck on your exam, if it exists. Maeve. I added a P.S. after rereading it. P.S. Marcy says hi. A small, almost invisible wound, the kind that doesn't bleed until later. I placed my keys on top of the folder. 3 metal shapes. I'd once joked that they sounded like music when they hit the counter. Now they sounded like closure. The new apartment smelled like primer and lemon cleaner. Sunlight hit the floors just right, and the windows didn't face anyone else's life. I made coffee with my own machine, unpacked only the essentials. 1 mug, 1 spoon, 1 pillow. When night fell, I checked my phone. 4 missed calls, then 8, then 12. The text came next. Maeve, where are you? This isn't funny. Answer me. You can't just leave. I turned the phone over, face down. The quiet I'd given him was now mine. The next morning, I woke up before sunrise. No snoring, no half-open laptop humming on the couch. Just birds and the sound of my own breathing. Freedom doesn't arrive with fireworks. It slips in quietly, like dawn through half-closed blinds. And for the first time in months, I let it in. By Sunday evening, my phone was a crime scene of missed calls. 27 from Zane, 9 from unknown numbers, 3 from his sister Willa. I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I sat on the floor of my new apartment, half furnished, half dream, and scrolled through his messages in order. It was like watching the 5 stages of grief speed-run by someone who never thought the world could exist without him. Stage 1, confusion. Maeve, did you move something? Where's the TV? This isn't funny. Stage 2, anger. You're insane. You can't just take everything. You're pathetic. Stage 3, bargaining. Let's just talk, please. You don't understand what Ramona and I have. We were on a break, kinda. I muted the thread. Silence never sounded so steady. By Monday morning, the meltdown evolved. Willa called. I picked up once. Curiosity, mostly. Maeve, what on earth happened? Zane's hysterical. Says you disappeared. I stirred my coffee. Ask him about Ramona. She paused. Ramona, his study partner? She's not in his section, I said evenly. Or in law school. Or single. The silence on the line was sharp enough to cut string. Maeve, oh. Her voice softened. I'm sorry. I didn't know. You do now. I ended the call before she could say he's a good person deep down. That afternoon, Marcy texted, "Hey, Zane called me. Said you were overreacting. I didn't know he was using my name." "He told me he crashed at your place," I replied, "at 3:07 a.m. "What? I was asleep by 10, Maeve, I swear." "I believe you," I wrote back. "He just forgot that lies need coordination." I screenshot our conversation and added it to the folder labeled Receipts. That folder had grown thick. Screenshots, invoices, the lease, the bank transfers. Proof that I hadn't imagined the imbalance. By Wednesday, Zane escalated. Security at my office called. "There's a man in the lobby demanding to see you. Says he's your boyfriend." "I don't have a boyfriend," I said calmly. Through the glass panel, I saw him. Creased shirt, wild eyes, holding his phone like a detonator. When security escorted him out, he turned once, scanning the floor until he found me watching. His lips formed a word I couldn't hear. Maybe why? Maybe please. I didn't care enough to read lips. Thursday morning came with a new flavor of chaos. A legal letter, typed in an overly formal font, signed by a third-year law student from his class. Unlawful eviction, theft of joint property, emotional distress. It was amateur hour on letterhead. I forwarded it to my cousin Eli, who's an actual attorney. He called back laughing. "Joint property? The lease is only in your name. You gave him notice. You even left a note. Maeve, this isn't a lawsuit, it's a tantrum in PDF form. Can you draft a response?" I asked. He did. A single page that began with, "My client owes your client nothing except the courtesy of indifference." I almost framed it. By Friday, the apologies began to mutate. "You didn't have to humiliate me. I just needed time to figure things out. You'll regret this when I'm successful." His confidence was the same brand as his cologne, expensive at first, but it fades fast when exposed to air. That evening, I poured myself a glass of wine and opened my email. A message had landed in the other folder. Subject line, about Zane and Ramona. The sender's name was Evan Ruiz. "Hi, Maeve. You don't know me, but I think we've both been dealing with the same two people. I'm Ramona's boyfriend, or was. She's been studying with Zane for weeks while I worked night shifts. I found out yesterday. Thought you might want to see this." There were attachments, screenshots, timestamps, photos from security cameras outside an apartment building. Zane and Ramona. Different nights, same pattern. Late arrivals, early exits. No textbooks. Evan's final line hit harder than any of it. "I'm sorry you got caught in their lie. You didn't deserve it." I stared at the screen for a long time, not because it hurt, but because it didn't. Not anymore. The ache had calcified into comprehension. I typed a reply. "Thank you, Evan. I already moved out. But it's good to know what kind of exam they were really studying for." When I hit send, the world didn't shift dramatically. No thunder, no cinematic swelling. Just quiet acknowledgement that truth, even secondhand, can still feel like closure. That night, I deleted Zane's number. Not blocked, deleted. Blocking means you still expect them to reach out. Deleting means you've stopped caring if they do. As I turned off my lamp, I caught my reflection in the window. Calm, not cold. For the first time, I looked like someone I trusted. Tomorrow, the final part of this story would start to write itself. Because karma, when it finally arrives, doesn't knock. It already has a key. By the following week, the storm had found new targets. It wasn't me anymore. It was them. Evan's message had done what my silence couldn't. Set off a chain reaction. Turns out, when one half of a secret affair gets careless, the other half tends to panic. Ramona showed up at Zane's campus on a Tuesday afternoon, mascara streaked, voice shrill enough to echo across the quad. She wanted answers. Specifically, why he'd suddenly stopped responding after their last study night. The thing about liars is that they only sound calm when they're still believed. By the time Zane stammered something about needing space, half his classmates were pretending not to watch. The other half were recording. That night, Evan sent me another message. "It's unraveling." She went to his apartment, screamed for 20 minutes. His neighbor filmed it. "Want to see?" I didn't open the file. Some stories are better heard in past tense. By Thursday, the rumors had circled campus like wildfire. Someone found out Ramona wasn't a student, just a marketing manager who used to date Zane in undergrad. Someone else connected the dots about his study excuses. Screenshots surfaced. Group chats lit up. The so-called power couple of the law program, Zane, the focused one, and Ramona, the mentor figure, became a cautionary tale in 3 screenshots and a 10-second clip. Even Marcy texted me again. "Girl, the karma is real. Everyone knows. He's mortified." I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. Watching silence do its work is better than any monologue. A week later, I ran into Professor Leland, Zane's ethics professor, at a local cafe. We'd met once at a campus mixer. He recognized me before I could slip away. Maeve Calder, right? You were with Zane Caldwell? Was, I said simply. He hesitated, then leaned closer. I'm not supposed to say this, but given everything that's surfaced, you might appreciate it. He lowered his voice. Zane failed his professional ethics exam. Catastrophically. Worst score in his section. He's on probation for attendance and academic integrity. I shouldn't tell you this, but... He shrugged. Poetic, isn't it? It was. More poetic than I could have written. I thanked him, left a tip that matched my relief, and stepped back into the late spring light. The air smelled of orange blossoms and something new. Peace, maybe. 3 months later. The apartment finally looked lived in. Books stacked, coffee rings on the counter, a half-unpacked box I refused to rush. The kind of imperfection that means real life happens here. I'd started dating someone, Liam, a colleague from my firm. Kind eyes, bad at cooking, great at listening. We were taking it slow, intentional. No games, no rehearsed apologies. My savings had grown. No more invisible drain into someone else's life. I'd started a small investment fund, the one I'd always postponed because Zane needed help with tuition. One evening, I stopped by the hardware store to pick up paint samples. A man called my name. Maeve. I turned. It was Mr. Caldwell, Zane's father. Gray at the temples now, still kind-eyed, holding a basket of nails and tape. Mr. Caldwell, I said, surprised. Hi. He smiled, weary. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry for everything my son put you through. We didn't raise him to be that way. It happens, I said quietly. He talks about you, you know, he added. Says he didn't appreciate what he had until it was gone. I met his gaze. He appreciated it. He just thought he could keep it while shopping for something better. Mr. Caldwell's expression softened with a sad kind of agreement. That's accurate. He paused. You look happier. I am. We said goodbye. I walked to my car with sunlight on my back and a calm I hadn't earned by fighting, but by leaving. That night, I found Zane's old laminated Rules for Focus in a box I'd never unpacked, an unintentional souvenir. The last line read, Maintain silence, eliminate distractions. I smiled. I'd finally learned what that meant. Silence isn't absence, it's authority. It's knowing when to stop explaining. The jealous girlfriend he once accused me of being didn't vanish. She just evolved into a woman who keeps her receipts and her peace. I wrote one final note, not to send, just to close the loop. Dear Zane, I hope your next study partner actually helps you pass something. I passed too, just not the kind of test you thought. I folded it, tucked it between the pages of a notebook, and switched off the light. The apartment sighed around me, the way spaces do when they finally belong to only one heartbeat. Outside, the night hummed quietly, steady, forgiving, mine.